6 o'clock, this meeting is called to order. Neil, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our first order of business will be to approve the minutes of previous meetings, starting with the May 28, 2013 work session.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes of the May 28th work session.
Second.
It's been moved by Bill, seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next, we have the May 28, 2013 regular Select Board minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Dick, seconded by Mike. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Those minutes are approved. And finally, we have the Select Board special non-public June 6, 2013 meeting minutes.
I move to approve those minutes.
Second.
It's been moved by Mike, seconded by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Announcements. The Select Board will meet on the following dates. Regular meetings at 6 p.m. on Monday, June 24th and July 8th, 2013. Work review sessions prior to the regular meeting will start at 5 p.m. All of the above meetings will be held in the Town Hall unless otherwise posted. Weather observations for the month of May are available in the Town Hall. Citizens wishing to be listed on the Selectmen's agenda should notify the Town Hall before 12 p.m. the Friday before the scheduled meeting. Okay, moving on to our agenda. Under appointments, we have a letter of intent from Gunnar Baldwin requesting appointment to the Plymouth Energy Commission.
I would make a motion to approve Gunner's appointment to the Plymouth Energy Commission.
I would second that.
Okay, and just as a matter of information to those watching this meeting, Gunnar Baldwin has been serving as an alternate member of the Energy Commission for the last 2 years and has requested appointment to a 3-year term. So it has been moved by Mike, seconded by Bill. All those, any discussion?
Well, I would like to point out that Gunner's been very active and very helpful in his role at the Energy Commission, and I think he'll make a very good member.
Okay. In that case, I request a vote. All those in favor of Gunner's appointment to a regular position on the Plymouth Energy Commission?
Aye.
Opposed? Gunner is appointed. We also have a letter from Susan Swope requesting reappointment to the Plymouth Conservation Commission. And Susan Swope has been a member of the Conservation Commission, I believe, for the past 10 years. So she has extensive experience and background as an educator and scientist.
I will make a motion to reappoint Susan Swope to the Plymouth Conservation Commission.
Second.
It's been moved by Mike and seconded by Dick. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of reappointing Susan Swope?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Susan Swope is reappointed. Moving on to Chairman's comments, I would just like to offer congratulations to our fire chief on his graduation from the Certified Public Manager course at the New Hampshire Department of Education and Training. This is a demanding 2-year program that Chief Clogston undertook in addition to his regular duties. So congratulations to Chief Clogston. Next, we have committee reports. Bill?
On June 3rd, I attended a school board meeting, and we actually celebrated the retirement of Jerry Gontars, John Levesque, Lynn Houst, and Tom Underwood, and this was their last year. And at that school board meeting, replacement for Tom was appointed, and it was Kelly Carey, who's now the assistant principal. And there was an announcement of the loss of an A-plus grant. You know, Plymouth has been receiving these A-plus grants for 2 sessions so far. It's a 5-year grant. We've had it for 10 years, and we just heard that we were denied that grant for this cycle. And who's the board chair?
Mike Bullock?
Well, yeah, Mike is going to be looking into, you know, funding for, you know, this to make up for the loss. Hopefully we can find fees or whatever to make up for that loss, because there's approximately 40 families that take advantage of the A-plus program in Plymouth, and we can't see that lose.
Now, I had also heard somewhere that they might have an opportunity to also reapply for the grant. Is that?
I'm not certain if they're going to be reconsidered, you know, for this grant session. But knowing that it's like a 5-year process, I don't know if whatever solution that they can find for the next year, you know, would be adequate. So it's going to be a replacement until the next cycle.
You know how much money's involved?
Yeah, how much money was it? It was
The A-plus program?
yeah.
Quite a bit.
I think it was like 40. It was a 40 grand or something like that, or approximately 40,000 per year.
Whole program? It's hard to do that.
Well, some of that, yeah, it's contributes to many different areas. One of which is the summer program, but that would go on regardless.
Does it impact kindergarten in the afternoon?
Yeah, it would impact kindergarten in the afternoon.
There wouldn't be any kindergarten in the afternoon.
So,
A lot of different pieces, and they don't have another chance to do it.
and it's unfortunate. I think in retrospect, maybe it would have been advantageous to have like a grant writer, maybe to target, you know, because I guess, you know, it just came down to an evaluation of the grant application, and we probably would have had a shot if we were targeting the correct answers to the grant application. But in any event, yeah, it was kind of unfortunate. And my kids have taken advantage of the A-plus program. I mean, my wife and I both worked down in Concord, and, you know, we needed a place to park the kids in an acceptable manner, but anyway.
Just every grant is getting more and more competitive, and you really gotta hit all the marks.
Yeah, that was true of the state as well in my employment there, so.
Mike?
I don't have anything to report.
Nothing new.
On June 6th, the planning board held an open forum. It was at 6:30 PM right here in Town Hall. And all the citizens and taxpayers who were interested were invited. I felt the meeting went very well. We had Mr. Krebs from the North Country Council. We had Mr. Hanscom, the state DOT engineer, and from this district, and we had a number of business owners and people who make their livelihood in ways that would be affected by the Tenney Mountain Corridor master plan. We had a broad range of observations and suggestions made to us, and it was all very cordial. And we're going to have another public meeting on June 20th for citizens and taxpayers and people who are interested in the master plan, redevelopment of the master plan for Tenney Mountain Highway. There were a lot of very interesting suggestions.
Thank you. And I have nothing to report. Under new and other business, Brian Murphy. We've got the request from the,
I got a kind of a left-handed email from Bob Walsh, who does the layout for the co-op. actually, it came through Peter. Because it, up at the end, and many people aren't aware of this, where water and sewer is and the abutting property, that was actually the continuation of Old North Main Street, which was never extinguished by town vote. So it just kind of went away. It's reverted to class 6. So there's no issues with it. But the co-op has a house voltage line and a 3-phase line that run down the eastern side of the road. They need to put in transformers and a switch station for the 3-phase. And I only made one copy in the interest of saving money. But basically, Bob even offered me this. He says, in the event of a weather-related event or mechanical failure that would interrupt service at either Fairgrounds substation, the Bridgewater substation, Rumney, or Green Street substation, they can open and isolate any of them and refeed all the lines. That way, it'll maintain proper voltage downtown Main Street, and PSU Camp shares the same circuit. It's another switching station. It's a good opportunity to further isolate parts of the line. You know, sometimes when your power drops out, it's quite a ways away. You just happen to be on that leg. So the more switches you can have interim, the easier it is for them to segregate, possibly backfeeding from other places. But so I asked him what the upshot was, and he said, well, they own aerial rights of way for the lines already. But typically, they ask the select board's permission to put up poles along those rights of way to support the aerial lines that they have. I guess it's just kind of a thing that they do. You know, they come to the board and say, do you mind if we put a pole there? And you look at where the lines are set up. And you know, you can say yes or no. Did talk to Peter, since it's not an active roadway, there's really no downside to it. And, you know, it's not even going to be possible to reconnect that road in the future unless we wanted to put in a 3rd bridge up there, which I don't think is in anybody's interest at all. So basically, what they would do is for a vote from the Board of Selectmen saying that, yeah, they can put up the 3 poles for their transformer platform that they have designed for that area.
What was the number of poles?
3. I did give the handout, and I kept that for myself. Good. And I can show you roughly where this should lie. I do have a color copy here somewhere. Okay. So this is oriented north-south, obviously. Here's water and sewer. And this is a grassy, flat strip. And the power lines right now, like I said, there are 2 sets run along this side of the road. The one that's closer into the travel lanes is the lower voltage, and they will be actually setting the 3-phase ones further back per the drawing that Bob had provided. So essentially, what he didn't show was the line that runs up here already, and they're both in at this point. So closer to, this is the verge over the, it's actually the Baker River, I believe, at that point. Maybe it is the Penney. Be 3 poles in a line under there, not in front of the task force house, but closer probably towards the slope above the river. And there's one there already, so it appears that it'll be just a succession of 4 poles. I'm not sure how big the transformer equipment is, but generally speaking, they're about the size of a 55-gallon drum. And I would assume that there are 3 of them.
So these are transformers that are at the top of the pole, not something they're gonna build on the ground, is that?
Well, no, they won't be sitting on the ground, they'll be on poles, but I would assume that they're going to be above reachable height just for safety.
Oh, I see.
Whether they're actually attached at the line level, I'm not sure either. Most of them are, you're right.
And then this line, what, continues over the river, over towards down the main?
Actually, it runs down along Old North Main Street. Where it goes from there, I didn't.
Where does it go the other way?
Over the river, through the woods, and past Alex's place. And I think it runs up, it may split around the mill. As far as the 3-phase, I don't know if this is a continuation from that leg that runs down by the police department.
So is that land titled to the town, do you think? Or
This is the question. Like most of I think we own it by use. There's not a whole lot of documentation as to how the roads are laid out in Plymouth.
But it's not included on the water and sewer deed or on the other deed?
No, it's
just
not. It's actually
sitting
shown as Old Rough Main Street with just
Yeah.
a stub.
But this is one of those things, it's a Class 6 road.
Correct.
We have not abandoned it, so it doesn't revert to the abutters on either
Correct.
side. So,
They're both exempt properties. Water and sewer, it's its own entity. I believe the task force is a town. And it is located on the task force side. So if we did split the road and it goes, then it would end up back to us anyway.
back to us anyway.
always either way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
so,
And I don't know how it's going to look, I'm not sure. I did take a photograph before they had the stakes, just to give you a bit of a scale. And then I didn't print it in color. These stakes here are gonna represent where the poles are. There's 3 of them. This is that one pole that was shown adjacent to the others. So you can see that this side is the 3-phase, that side is the low volt. And they actually run kind of funny. Just because the wires are bigger, they look like they're actually set on the other side, but they run in parallel fashion. And I believe each of them has a 15 or 20-foot right-of-way for every one of those. So they own the air and the ground, essentially, or at least the use of them. This is just a formality, I think.
yeah, and it's in a place that nobody's gonna see.
And the upshot is, I believe these are all taxable property.
Yes,
So
that's what I was gonna
when they
ask.
increase the, value of that right of way, then with physical equipment, we would gain benefit from it. I don't know what kind of paperwork Bob would like, whether it's just a copy of the minutes, but I'll find out tomorrow, pending the decision, of course.
Any other questions?
Well, it's kind of like, off the wall, but, so if Alex, were to, pursue, this is an aside conversation that we had regarding, straightening out that road, the peg mill, and, because right now it's at this really odd angle that
Yes.
I'm thinking it's kind of like an issue or a problem waiting to happen as far as accidents and such, but, would that in any way impact that, or maybe could we,
There are so many
look to
rights of
anticipate?
way and easements there. One, you have the railroad and the railroad land, which is owned by the state.
Yeah.
And that, I think it is an active rail. Behind Frosty Scoops, that was also part of the railroad easement, but he's purchased that since.
That's where
parking
the
lot is.
that work was done.
It's funny when you go to cross the railroad, I mean,
Yeah.
everybody weighs in and
Yeah.
DOT and stuff. I think the only way to actually get that straightened out would be to do it on Alex's side of the road, where once you cross, instead of continuing that hard right turn, you can just go straight in.
Yeah, right, I don't know if that's,
But,
Yeah.
because of all the entanglements, but to get back to your question, I don't believe that
This project
I don't
would
think he can
impact
do
that
anything to
anyway.
it, because it's a totally separate
Right.
thing. And I believe they'll be working around that anyway.
All right.
Yes. Because I don't really know much about it. Other than that, I sense a plus.
Yes, we do need to take a vote on this, so do I have a motion to approve the New Hampshire Electric Co-op's request to place poles in the right-of-way that Brian described?
So moved.
second.
It's been moved by Dick, seconded by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Okay, next we have Sharon Penney to discuss the perambulation of the Plymouth Groton Town Line.
As you all know, the town of Groton had instigated perambulation, the original in 1998. And recently, I think it was last fall, went through and checked all the monuments again. They did cut, I guess they had a bit of a false start. We got this report from them. Has any folks seen it? Yeah. I'll just pass, there's several copies I'll pass around so you can look at. Anyway, a little bit of a false start with, they had the wrong ordinance in their GPS units. So they did go and they went all through, and all the monumentation that's in the original binder that I have, which was the original or most recent perambulation heretofore, they did find all those monuments, note them. The line has not moved. Some of the monuments really, I think, need to be repainted or reblazed, but they were legible at this point. So what the town of Groton's folks have asked you folks to do is approve what was in this report by my documentation of the original, my cross-checking, and just say, yes, in fact, they did go out and accomplish finding all the monumentation that they needed. It was kind of interesting for me to look at this because I was unaware heretofore of the, folks, I don't want to go over something that everybody's already aware of, but apparently when they did the first perambulation, the actual USGS maps were found to be incorrect because it, it's kind of no man's land out there.
When you say the first perambulation, what do you mean?
Well, the first most recent perambulation.
98, was it?
98, yeah. So there had to be a House bill that actually said, tons of documentation and in that report from the first perambulation. And there was a House bill introduced in March of 1998 that effectively said the line in red is the actual accurate line. What's listed on USGS is incorrect. Of course, in that region of all the 4 or 5 towns, a lot of the boundaries say indeterminate boundary or this or that. I guess, with the topo and everything, it's really a rough ride up there on foot. And of course, none of the USGS maps have been upgraded since '95, so it's still incorrect on any of our USGS maps, but they had authenticated the line in '98 when they did the most recent.
And would the legislature's action cause the next revision of the USGS maps to be changed?
Not necessarily, because I checked, and that was in '98, and
Yeah.
this is,
You said 95 was the last update of the
right.
maps.
I went across the street to look and see, so I guess USGS is not in a hurry to get it
I'm
right.
sure they don't have
No.
money to do it.
No. But I found that very interesting. But anyway, our neighbors in Groton have gone out and, checked on the line, all the monumentation's there and everything's kosher, and GIS is a wonderful tool, or GPS is a wonderful tool. And it was very interesting to read that first perambulation report. An awful lot of documentation and old historic records and stuff are in there if anybody's interested. I have it in my office, so I guess whomever is authorized, would it be Val, Paul? At some point, we're gonna need a signature on this to send this back to the town of Groton. It's a sign-off,
Yeah.
essentially, so.
The town of Plymouth actually owns a large parcel of land that abuts the Groton town line. On top, it's up on top of Tenney Mountain.
Right.
It's almost 100 acres.
Right where the towers,
I was gonna say,
what? Right where the towers are. Maybe we'll find out that we own the land.
That was one of the things that we were,
No.
we
we just
confirmed that we didn't own the land that any of the towers were on before we, when that was all going on.
I'm sure they checked it out. Good job.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So we will need to make a vote and also designate whether I should be the one signing this.
So Kate, we have 2
Knowledge,
copies?
receipt and acceptance
Right.
of the report from the town of Groton.
I guess, it was mentioned that during the 5 o'clock discussion that at the same time they're sending us this, they're also sending us a bill for.
No, we've taken care of that.
Okay.
So can the motion be to have both Val and Paul sign it? Is that the,
It wouldn't be, I'm not part of the governing body,
okay.
strictly selectmen.
Just one signature,
Yeah.
twice.
So I mean, basically what the motion would be to accept the report and authorize me to sign the acceptance.
So moved.
So,
Okay, I think I heard Neil second first, so it's been moved by Dick, seconded by Neil. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Opposed? I will sign this.
Yes, this is our copy,
Okay.
please. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay, and as we're moving on, Sharon is also on our next agenda item, which is explaining the financing of the Tenney Mountain Corridor Study and what the study will entail.
I will be happy to. Neil gave a very good overview. Both he and Bill were in attendance, and that was great. Just a quick bit of background. We being the planning board, last year started to look into the master plan update and realized that a lot of had occurred on Tenney Mountain Highway in the last several years, and we didn't have a handle on any data. We didn't have any documentation, any data, anything like that. We could just see what was out there. So we shopped around a little bit, and I made some inroads with North Country Council in that their corridor study, access management, and I'll explain that in a minute if anyone's not overly familiar with what that is. They had a little bit of planning money left over from their contract with DOT to the tune of $25,000 that we had to do nothing for other than participate, no match or anything. So it really was a gift in essence, and it was to be applied to the update and / the implementation, perhaps, of some of the recommendations from the 2003 study. So we started off, as Neil said, on June 6th. We're going to have a second public information meeting on June 20th. We had 4 topics. We had land use, transportation, utilities, and I forgot there's something else on there. But we've broken it up into 2 segments because we had such a large amount of input. Just by definition, access management, it's the study of land use and transportation patterns in an effort to prevent traffic congestion, reduce traffic safety conflicts, and deter poor development practices which may promote these problems along transportation corridors. So we can't get too far afield in this on delving into other things, but there are a lot of related issues, development and land use issues. Has everybody seen this? I don't want to belabor it, but this is great. Since the town itself has no GIS capacity, we're getting mapping done. Now this is an aerial. I think DOT took these in 2010. You could participate in these flyovers. We didn't happen to at the time. Thanks. But this is just a base map with all the parcels. But as Neil and Bill have seen before, getting an aerial view, I mean, it's like an archaeological dig, because visually you could see all the different disruptions, if you will, old roadbeds, the oval for the fairgrounds, all this kind of stuff that you wouldn't ordinarily see. So anyway, long story short, we're looking for public input on, development issues. I mean, do we possibly want frontage roads? Do we want a roundabout somewhere, thus and such? And that also builds, conversations about secondary issues, which is going to be good. But we will be getting some GIS mapping out of North Country Council, which is huge, to try to pull, different layers of data out, like possible auxiliary routes, developable land vis-à-vis the ESZ or some parameters like that. So this is really great. This
It
is
is great.
huge because, unfortunately right now what the planning department has for tools is fairly rudimentary because we don't have GIS capacity. And to be able to get a quarter access management study updated 10 years later, right at the point where we're having development, and some good things are happening and potential for good things, but on the other hand, some concerns. There's just a lot going on out there, and I'm very happy to see this. I mean, just the aerial view is huge in terms of cognition and stuff for everybody.
All the, excuse my ignorance, the red lines on this are all, do those all
Property
represent property
Parcels.
lines?
Parcels, yep.
Who put those on, then, How did they get there?
I think NCC did that. They created this from the aerial data from DOT.
It's an overlay for them.
Yeah, it's an extrapolation from our tax map.
Okay.
Okay.
Because we did have our parcels digitized by cartographics. We were able
Okay.
to do that. So this has been very helpful.
It's incredible because I'm so used to seeing, tax maps pasted together, taped together.
Well, that's the extent of our technology. I try to do a neat job taping, and that's about it.
Right, but this is
But
fabulous.
anyway,
That's pretty impressive.
It
yeah.
is.
Well,
So
it
what do you
just,
mean by, explain a little bit more about what you mean by the GIS data?
right, well, I'm gonna work with Jim Steele, who's the GIS guy at North Country Council. For example, taking our, those printouts and rosters we have downstairs with the properties and just saying, okay, this is commercial, taking our tax maps and having him trace in electronically by parcel where the ESC is, just so you can see what we have available. Because it's a different dimension, if you understand what I'm saying, rather than even literally being on the ground. So,
Right.
seeing in places like, for example, where there is development already close to the Baker, the new development, at Riverside Land, it gives you a very comprehensive perspective. And that's what why this stuff is so great, because you've got all the different parameters all here.
Yeah, I can just see it just
It just
Clara
pops, doesn't it?
crystallizing
Yeah,
what
no, it's
you-
wonderful.
what we're
I'm
looking
a
at.
very happy camper with this, and we have several copies.
Can I ask the status of the obtaining of the tax data? Was that, obtaining the tax data so that you can share with North Country that,
I guess I don't understand the question, though.
well, in order for them to populate their GIS, they need the tax data, from our, company that does our.
Oh, no, we had the golden disc.
We did?
Yeah, we
Okay.
did, I didn't
Did we
realize.
know, we didn't know it? Or-
Well, I didn't,
Oh, okay.
I just thought we had,
So when
discs
we,
that.
when it requires it, you got it.
So we had,
You gotta look it up.
we have discs with, so to speak, manipulable data.
Okay,
And North Country Council has that now, so.
excellent.
This study, I don't know, I don't think it's gonna be hugely lengthy, but, we're proceeding at the pace that we need to, because we're, as I said the other night at the meeting, we have to stick with access management because DOT's paying for it, and that's the criteria for it. But I'm trying to get everything I can that's related to this during this process, so we have something in hand. So it's pretty good, and as Neil said, we had pretty good representation. We invited, through the Chamber of Commerce, businesses, landowners, department heads. We had Alan Hanscom from District 2 here. I didn't think he was going to be able to make it. So, there'll be a lot of corollary stuff related to this that goes on afterwards, but hopefully something tangible, so then when we do go for the master plan update, our main development corridor will be current in terms of input and in terms of updating the data, so we know what we're not dealing with old maps that we have to color and say, oh no, that's not there anymore, this kind of stuff. Yeah, so,
Just explain again, I didn't quite, the $25,000 funding, that was money left over from what?
it was DOT planning money through the Regional Planning Commission.
Okay.
It was their discretionary money. And,
So not necessarily for Plymouth, for kind of the North Country
Yeah, it was something they had.
Yeah.
It was something they had, and we went back in our membership. They had done the original study in 2003, and it just all seemed to dovetail well.
Perfect sense.
So I think it's a really positive thing.
I think what's really important about this is that we haven't decided what we're gonna do yet. We wanna hear from everybody, and we wanna get a consensus of what, you know, what we should be working towards for solutions.
Yeah, and as I said, I mean, it's so invaluable for everybody out there to see it, because everyone has a perception and a perspective in their mind, but this is, you know, this is infallible here, this is how it is, so. It's a good thing.
It looks somewhat different there than I imagine it.
See, there you go, yeah. Yeah, and it's perspective, and you know, when you see things you think are close to the river or far away, and you actually see the map and the distances. I don't know what the scale is, but it's irrelevant because it's visual. Then you really get an accurate viewing of.
This is designated industrial park up here.
We were speaking to that, with an access road that is now a town street, so, you know, we're not gonna solve all the problems of the world nor the town with this quarter study update, but it's an update, and that was a huge gap in our information.
That's great.
Yeah, and it was pretty.
I'll leave the best side.
Price, yeah.
So any
Thank you.
questions? I'm sorry.
Thank you.
You bet.
Well, it's good to get something valuable for free.
Yeah, right.
Moving on, items for the select board plate in the future, and just some issues that we will be talking about, most likely sometime after we finish celebrating Plymouth's 250th anniversary, which is taking up quite a bit of time and attention right now. But because there is a town-wide reevaluation of property values going on this year, that's going to require us to make a number of decisions, including decisions about our unassigned fund and how much we want to set that at this year. We're also going to be looking at capital improvements. I think I mentioned at town meeting that we have infrastructure improvements that are needed throughout the town in our buildings, and we're going to have to be making some choices about those. There is $600,000 set aside for the third phase of Highland Street, and we have learned from our town engineer and highway department superintendent that they believe that it could be done for significantly less. So we're going to be talking about the need to, or whether we would want to reassign some of that money to other areas, whether it be roads or municipal infrastructure. And Paul, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, we have several properties that we want to revisit the use of, or the bartering of, the sale of, the leasing of. We have right across the street from the Flying Monkey, we own property there. We have 25 acres up at the recycling center. We have 35 acres across from the airport. Some trade-offs, something that would help us with the safety buildings to locate a site again, instead of having to pay for a site. This is the year where the capital improvement plan does kick in, so that's when we want to sit down and meet with the department heads. And we start to drift a little bit more towards equipment, which we've done well over the last 5 years, and get basically into the infrastructure, the repair of the town hall, highway department, and recycling center this time around. We still have the LSSA agreement that even though we've extended, we do need to look into the rewriting of that. And we have 2 MOUs on the table now that we might be able to combine to one. We have the main one that went before the university about 4 or 5 years ago. And then we have a new one that the police chief is bringing forward to the board. as far as how when the board appoints an officer, should something happen to that officer, the liability on the town, and how that would be handled under the jurisdiction of our police chief. And the possibility of just combining those two MOUs together. And then we want to start looking into inviting towns again to take advantage of our services such as dispatch, ambulance, fire and rescue. Now that our runs are starting to cut down, there might be an opportunity to bring some towns back in. Several years ago, we lost some towns. And it might be a good opportunity to reach out to them and see how they're doing. And
Because
I think there's a couple that are interested in coming back.
I was gonna say, I think we had anticipated that some of those towns would find that their contract ambulance services would end up being more expensive than they thought they were, and that we probably could provide the service for less.
And also now that we have a human resource person, I think we want to start developing human resource policies of how far do we want to take this particular department, or how little do we want to, do we want to use it strictly for counseling for employees, or do we want to actually set up, if A happens, then B is going to happen, then C is going to happen, and that's decisions that need to be worked out with Missy Town, Eileen Town, and the Board of Selectmen.
Anybody else have anything to add? All right. In that case, we will move on to public comment. Is there any public comment this evening? All right. We have no non-public information to discuss. So with that,
I move that we adjourn.
I second Bill's motion.
it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned.